Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
Republicans, how do you feel about Trump federalizing DC police, deploying the National Guard and deploying over 500 federal agents? I feel like the craziest thing about Trump federalizing DC police, deploying the National Guard and deploying over 500 federal agents is that Trump's name is all over the Epstein files. Vance was saying Democratic leaders and billionaires are in the Epstein files. So let's see them too. My outrage knows no political allegiance. Let's see it all. Left, right, center. Leaders from around the world. Celebrities, all of them. He really wants to distract us from the child sex abuse crime ring he ran with his partner Epstein. And it's part of the Project 2025 blueprint to do something like this. You mean the Project 2025 he lied and claimed he knew nothing about? National Guard troops are going to be standing around doing nothing again. Hope they find comfy floors to sleep on. They're not allowed to be homeless in DC now. Thankfully nobody is required to quarter them against their will. Or is that the latest part of the Constitution which will get the axe? I watched the presser and not one the media appeases ask Trump and his stooges what they are going to do with the homeless people once they're rounded up. Or why he didn't deploy the National Guard during the January 6th insurrection. Or, if they're concerned about crime, how do they justify moving Ghislaine Maxwell to a minimum security prison that is not supposed to house child traffickers? Hint, it will involve payments to a company owned by one of his donors. Yeah, I don't think people really recognize how much of this is simply driven by neoliberal profit-seeking and the corruption that has come out of that. Every person rounded up and put into what are heavily for-profit prisons is money in the pocket of core civic, GEO, and other cronies. They get more money for every new prisoner they detain, and they want to fill up the prisons. Fascism is making a handful of people extremely rich. Donald Trump raped children. This has been known for a very long time. His base does not care. Never cared. They are actually pro-pedophilia at this point. I'm guessing you won't get many actual Republicans replying here because this is 100% indefensible. DC is at its lowest crime rate in 30 years, and even if it wasn't, there is absolutely zero justification for sending armed troops to occupy a US city. It is blatant authoritarianism. This is a deeply dangerous action and not something that we can allow to be normalized. If there are any actual Republicans here, please, for the love of all that is good in the world, stop worshipping Trump and consider how dangerous of a precedent this is. Do we want to live in a country where the current president can just decide to occupy a random city of his choosing? I sure don't. You can always go over to our conservative and check out what they think. The initial period after something like this is announced is most informative because then you see actual individual opinions. They are generally along the lines of, what the fuck is this? I don't think we voted for this and I'm concerned. Which makes sense because 50% of the USA is not actually insane. Sadly, over the days following such an announcement, these opinions get slowly replaced and swamped by the parroting of whatever Fox Al have told them that they should think about it. Didn't even take them that long this time, they were already prepped to hate on the DC mayor. Lots of, well, it is a lawless city led by a monster and deserves what's coming to it. I mean, did you see the way DC's dressed? Going on directly under the few people acknowledging that this is objectively a bad thing for the country. Indefensible. They can always blame Biden for it in some manner. Exactly. There's always the Biden defense, the Obama maneuver, or the Hillary shuffle. There's nothing the right can't fucking weasel out of. There are comments on Fox News from maggots blaming Biden, saying that he made it so difficult to report crime stats that they aren't valid and that violent crime is at an all-time high in blue states, cities. Anyone who still supports Trump is hopeless. They are in a cult. They would let Trump take their 8-year-old daughters to Mar-a-Lago for summer internships. God, stop asking. They don't care what he does, they are hateful morons. I'd bet my entire life savings that if Biden talked about doing this they'd call for his impeachment. Let alone trying to. Just pop over to our conservative if you want to know how they feel. It seems they managed to make this about Obama and Pelosi like every other insane thing Trump does. Conservative is an echo chamber filled with bots. It's basically Truth Social on Reddit. And they're not up to speed on the news cycle. You have to wait until Fox and Friends explains how they're supposed to react. Removed. If Obama or Biden had done so, it would have been impeachment worthy. Just to think of the number of things he has done that are bad enough to have him removed. Republicans in office are too scared to have a backbone. It's like reality TV where everyone is too scared to be the one outside the main group to change their opinion. I just know when I see that are the next few elections and they are up for re-election they will be voted against. I was told only Nancy Pelosi had the power to call the National Guard out. I feel he is doing everything he can to avoid the Epstein files. The ones that show that Donald Trump raped children, and possibly had a hand in a large international child sex trafficking ring. Those files. ? I read this entire thread, and if I missed one, I apologize to whomever that Republican was, but it appears as if they do not have an answer and are waiting for the right-wing media sphere to tell them what they should think. When I was still on FB, one thing I noticed was that whenever something like this happened, it'd be crickets from my Republican friends for about 24 to 36 hours. But then, the minute Fox News or some other right-wing source would push out some kind of spin, my feed would be saturated with whatever horseshit they had been spoon-fed. It's why they always have the exact same talking points, not just the same subject but down to using the exact same words. They absolutely lack any critical thinking skills, they simply wait for someone else to tell them what to think. This is part of the plan to normalize using federal troops to suppress and intimidate US citizens. There is no other reason for it. This response needs to be higher. While it's true this is partly a tactic to distract from the Epstein files debacle, it is in and of itself a very intentional tactic to degrade American freedom. Right on cue, https://www.usa.com/story/news/politics/2025/08/11/trump-national-guard-deployment-st/DC/856109230077/. Considering violent crime in DC hit a 30-year low in January, it is reckless, crazy, uninformed, and extreme, like everything else he does. Taking over the DC police and deploying National Guard seems a little like a step to completely take over the federal government. If this were happening in a third world country, I might think this is a coup. How does this help the price of groceries again? I heard that on day one things would get better. This guy will do anything to distract from the fact he was best buds with Epstein. DC is dangerous, we need to lock up every criminal. Right after he pardons over 1,000 criminals that we actually watched commit crimes, on our own TVS. Feeling validated knowing Trump could have deployed the National Guard on January 6 and purposefully chose not to, knew it the whole time of course, but now right-wing fuckheads have less of a leg to stand on. I don't know why these questions keep getting asked. They don't care. They are in a cult. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. I'm not a typical Republican. I used to lean more to the right, but I am more center than anything. I also despise everything that Trump is and stands for. I voted for him the first time, but after the train wreck that was his administration I could not do it again. Everything he does goes against what I believe a president or even a human being should be. My biggest fear is that everything that has been done will never allow us to go back to being normal. So maybe you aren't a Republican. It's to protect him from the coming MAGA insurrection. I really want it, but realistically doubt it will happen. They are very well trained, obedient dogs. Not MAGA, those opposed to MAGA. He's shoring up security in DC because something worse is likely coming at some point soon that will cause the rest of the US to rise up. Republicans would nuke their own house if it hit a Democrat's slightly smiling face. You won't get a proper response when you title your question like that. This is Reddit, most of us are not Republicans. Most of your answers will be from Democrats. Op knows, they just want to stir the pot and get karma. I actually wonder if they're planning on announcing something related to Epstein they know is going to piss people off, and this is a preemptive measure for potential rioting in Washington. Something like pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell in exchange for her silence. This won't be the last city he tries this in. But meanwhile, how about those Epstein files? As usual, most of the upvoted posts are not from Republicans. Seems like the common response is, Epstein files. Did any of you care about the Epstein files from 2020 to 2024? DC has a higher murder rate than many dangerous cities around the country. People used to post in the DC subreddit about the crime, although mods have been squashing that recently, and I imagine any of the DC denizens that post here would be excoriated for a post admitting to having a negative experience with crime in the district. Is it necessary? I don't know. Is it a good idea politically? Probably not. Will it help? IDKI give it 50-50, would be 90/10 if the people in charge of DC actually wanted it to help and would support it, but if they actually wanted things to be better in DC, Trump wouldn't need to step in. The Biden DOJ had the Epstein files for 4 years. Do you really think there's something in there about Trump they couldn't find a way to leak? Crime has been trending downward for the past few years. https://mpdc.dc.gov/dailycrime. Trump ran on releasing the Epstein files. When Biden was in office, the files were sealed till 2024-2025 because the case was still ongoing. He couldn't do anything with the files. Crime may be an issue in DC, but to federalize the police and bring in the National Guard is overkill. Especially when you tell people you want to round up the homeless and move them to tent cities. There is reason to doubt the statistics. The past 10 years of American politics have been a near constant stream of anti-Trump leaks. Even if files were sealed to the public, the Biden DOJ had all the evidence against Epstein in their files, and in fact, they were the ones who actively prosecuted Maxwell. I do not for 1 second believe that all of the partisans in Maine Justice or the SDNY sat on evidence of Trump engaged in sex trafficking with a minor, even as they watched Biden implode during that debate, and the Kamala campaign was a slow-motion disaster. We are allowed to have nice cities, especially the nation's capital. I don't know if federalizing DC police will change anything, but I'm willing to try it. There were ongoing investigations.